Hello? Okay, we're going to get started in about 10 seconds to get the camera going. Hey, can everybody see the screen okay, or dim the lights, or should we do a show of hands? 20. Okay. All right, good. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. If people come in late, that's fine. We can get through this, kind of a interactive presentation. So today we're speaking at the Conflict of Interest, or Form 700 training. And so you're all here. That means you got lucky enough to be designated as someone that has to fill out this paperwork. So we'll kind of go through this. We'll do some interactive parts of this. And let's go ahead and jump into it. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the Political Reform Act, what constitutes a governmental decision, who has to file this lovely paperwork, what economic interests are covered, what is the Form 700, or it should be Forms 700, and where and when we've got to file these things, and what are some of the penalties if we don't file on time. So the Political Reform Act, there's several sections of government code, Section 81,000 and some others that speak to the Political Reform Act, and it requires state and local government agencies to adopt a conflict of interest code. So if you're interested, we do have a conflict of interest code, and it also specifies who has to file and what categories. And it's got a what kind of decisions are covered. It also requires public officials, which are all of us in this room here, to publicly disclose personal assets and income. And we've also got to excuse ourselves from some of the decision-making process. Because obviously if we have a vested interest, we can't be making decisions that might kind of appear to be something that might influence a decision that would have an impact on ourselves. So it kind of, it begs the question, what's a governmental decision? Okay, well, when you make a decision, participate in a decision, influence or attempts to influence a decision, those are all parts that are covered under the Political Reform Act. It excludes clerical positions because that's kind of important, because we have people that fill out or file the paperwork or maintain the paperwork. Those folks aren't covered by the act. Okay? So I think it helps sometimes to have examples of what we're talking about. So when you're making a decision, it's things like voting on a matter, appointing someone to a position or committee, obligating or committing the district to a course of action, or basically if you enter us into a contract, that's considered making a decision, okay? The second category, participating in the decision or influencing a decision, is if you negotiate without significant review with a governmental entity or a private person regarding a decision, or if you advise. This is kind of important. This is why kind of the net got broader this year, and there's more people being brought into this. If you advise or make recommendations to a decision maker, if you're doing research or filling out a report or doing a presentation or something like that, you're considered to be influencing a decision. So that's why a lot of people now are included under this process. So who has to file this? Well, anyone classified as a public official, and again, that's all of us here, and you have an economic interest that is covered, you've got to fill out that Form 700, okay? And government, I throw in, it's always, hey, I'm the auditor, I'll throw in some government code section here. 82048 says a public official means every member, officer, employee, or consultant of a state or local government agency. So very broad, okay? Okay, when do one of us or all of us have an economic interest? Well, according to this fund code section here, we have a financial interest if it's reasonably foreseeable the decision will have a material financial effect on ourselves or a family member. So it's really kind of broader, okay? And here are some of the circumstances that we would fall under this broad umbrella. If we have investments in real property, interest in real property, business positions, or income including gifts, loans, and travel payments, okay? This is kind of important because we've got to talk about what is an investment, because that's covered as well. And as you can see, it's pretty broad. If your spouse, dependent child of a public official, or an agent who represents you, or if you have a business entity or trust in your name or your spouse or dependent child, and you have a 10% or greater ownership interest in it, then you're covered. Those interests are covered and they have to be disclosed. Business entities include independent contracting, sole proprietorships, partnerships, LLCs, trusts, you see all that. And if you have a direct or indirect investment worth $2,000 or more, you're covered. So you've got to disclose. Business entities in which a public official is a, kind of like a management position, you can see the titles there, you're covered. That's covered as well. If you have investments and interest in real property, including stocks, in which the public official or has a direct or indirect, again, so it could be your spouse, could be your dependent children, or other representatives for you, and if that investment is worth $1,000 or more, you're covered. That's also a covered interest that has to be disclosed. Investment funds, if the interest is $2,000 or more, rental property within the jurisdiction, and non-governmental salaries of your spouse or registered domestic partner are also part of this. Okay, so we're going to get into this a little bit more. Sources of income. So let's say I'm a realtor or I'm a broker of some sort, and I receive some income from my business. That's also covered under this. And as a matter of fact, if you have basically payments aggregating $500 or more within the 12-month period prior to a decision being made, then that's considered also income that has to be disclosed, and you're going to have to fill out the proper paperwork. Any donor of or intermediary agent gifts aggregating $250 or more that are promised or received 12 months prior to a decision being made are also covered by this. The idea being, of course, is that if you got money or some kind of gift or something, even in the period before, like let's say you were elected or appointed to a position, that could be seen. And this is really important too. It's not just if you actually do have a conflict of interest, appearance of the conflict of interest. So the statute is actually very, very broad and very high. If it looks like you might have an interest in it, you're supposed to disclose it. Even gifts from non-family members, such as tickets, right? Hey, here's some tickets to the ball game or whatever, valued at $50 or more. If it's received by you, a family member, then that's covered. And your family member cannot be an agent for the donor because the threshold for people who are parts of agencies or lobbyists is even lower. It's $10 a month. So that threshold is even lower, okay? Travel payments from third parties, not your employer, are also kind of fall into this basket of being a gift, okay? So a gift, kind of a broad definition, is any payment or other benefit that confers a personal benefit and you're not providing a service or something of value in return for it, okay? Rebates or discounts on price that's not available to the general public is also considered a gift. So, you go down to a local tire dealer and, hey, you're on the board there. Why don't we go ahead and cut you a special deal on those tires? Well, if that's not open to the regular public, that's also considered a gift. Okay, now there are some ways to kind of get out from under this gift umbrella. If they're returned unused within 30 days, or they're donated to a 501c3 or a government entity within 30 days of being received, those you don't have to worry about. Gifts that are exchanged with others, they realize, hey, okay, most of us have family, friends, whatever, even like, work acquaintances. If you're doing a gift exchange, something of that nature, those are not considered gifts as far as this political reform are concerned, okay? Informational material provided to assist duties, right? Like we get packets and stuff that go to board, or you get some information like that to help make a decision. Those are not considered gifts. And personalized plaques and trophies under $250, right? I mean, a lot of volunteer organizations and even government entities, people put in a lot of time and effort, so they'll be recognized with awards. So those are not considered gifts either, okay? Passes and tickets not used or given to someone else, like we talked about, those are also excluded, okay? So if you take them and don't use them and return them or give them to a 501c3 or a government agency within 30 days, not considered a gift. Yes, Mike? Correct. If you're giving them to a 501c3, like let's say you have some friends on the YMCA, and so you get some tickets from somebody, and within 30 days you give it to them as part of like their donation packet so they can raffle them off. Those are not covered, or if you give them to a governmental agency as well, or if you return them unused. Well, right, someone else has defined previously. Yes, you got it. Okay. Restrictions on loans. So you can see they're really kind of covering all the bases here. You cannot receive a personal loan that exceeds $250 from anyone that we do business with, or the college. Okay, that's a no-no. A loan becomes a gift if it's not being repaid per the terms outlined, or there's no repayment terms, right? Here's the kind of fun thing. I mean, okay, I'm not saying this is fun. You know, when I'm reading through this, it's kind of like reading through the dictionary or phone book, but you can tell when they start bringing up cases like this is all because it happened somewhere, right? Somebody said, hey, I'm going to give you a loan, and you know, we're not paying it back, but we're just going to call it a loan. Well, caught up with that, and so that's a no-no, and it's not allowed. Okay, so now we're going to actually talk a little bit about the actual forms and statements that you have to fill out. And at the end of this, and I do promise you this presentation will end, at the end of it, though, you'll be told which categories you file and which statements are, that you have to include in your packet, okay? So Form 700 is the form prescribed by the Fair Political Practices Commission, okay? It discloses an employee or official's economic interests, and there are different schedules that you attach on it based on your status, okay, and your category. The schedules have to be completed based on your categories, which are actually defined in the district's conflict of interest code, which is kind of nice. We have 6 disclosure categories, okay? And those should be in your handouts. Thank you, Stacey. Category 1, if you fall within this category, you're going to have to disclose interest in real property within our jurisdiction. If you fall into Category 2, you've got to disclose investments and business positions. Category 3, income and business positions as well. There's some differences, though, in the paperwork. Category 4, business positions, investments in, or income received from business entities that we do interest, or that we do business with. If you fall into Category 5, you have to disclose income from investments and business positions with employees or entities owned and controlled by employees or their spouse. And Category 6, disclosures by individuals performing duties of a designated position under contract, okay? And there are in your handouts, why doesn't everybody just go ahead and if you have that handout with you, it'll say like Category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, and I apologize. I don't actually have a slide of them, but that's the one right there, okay? So you'll see that, and then within that packet, you'll also see the type of position. It'll say, you know, internal audit manager, you're Category 3, or you might be Category 1 and 4, or something of that nature. Does everybody have that? Yeah? Okay, so just go ahead and hold on to those, and we'll be talking about those a little bit later. All right. So now before you all start falling asleep, because I know how exciting this is, I thought we'd have a little fun and kind of get everybody involved, okay? So, can someone, and I'm going to walk around right now, and I've got some treats, some sugar to keep everybody awake. Can someone name one of the 3 components of a governmental decision? Anyone? It's Jolly Ranchers. Next time I'll bring like mini donuts or something. I should have thought it's breakfast time. What's that? Entering into a... You're good. Okay, no candy for you. Yes, there's, and what we're referring to here are if you make a decision, influence a decision, right? Or provide information for the decision, okay? Those are the 3 components that we're referring. But yes, if you enter into a contract, you have to disclose. And thank you, Mike. I know, I appreciate that, man. He's, you know, stepping up and taking a chance. Okay, name one economic interest covered by the Political Reform Act. Like that. See, this is a shotgun quiz in the morning. I know, not fair. Remember we talked about the different types of things that if you're involved with, you have to disclose? Yeah, who said that? Gifts. All right, let's go. Okay. Catchers and catchers. No candy? Yeah, I was going to say. All right, thank you. All right, let's see. Pitchers and catchers reported about a week ago, and you can see why I'm an auditor, why I'm not playing in the big league. Sorry about that. All right. Thank you. How many disclosure categories do we have? Did I find it? Yes. Okay, well, nobody raised their hand. Come on. I mean, how am I going to know? Here you go. What's that? Luann said it first. You're welcome. I am. Yeah, maybe I've got to like do softball, windmill pitching, slow pitch. Thank you. All right. So now we're going to kind of talk about the different types of statements that we file. And by and large, everyone here is going to file number 3, the annual statement. But we got to talk about all of them because there are different people in here, and some may have others. But there's the assuming office statement, the initial statement, the annual statement, the leaving office statement, and the candidate statement. Okay. So, of course, the question, yes? Greg's going to be, so for that, you get a candy. Here we go. Anne-Marie, I apologize if I hit you in the head. Okay, so the assuming office statement, okay, this is for someone who's newly appointed or newly employed in a designated position. The assuming office date is the date you were sworn in or that you basically began serving your position. And this position requires you to report investments and interest, real property, and business positions held on the date you assumed office. And there's some things you got to disclose ahead of time, Greg. So, initial statement. Okay. This is the one actually Greg's going to be filling out, not the assuming office. Or is an assuming? Okay, good. Thank you. Right. And I noticed Luann's holding her head very painfully saying, yes, you've added me to this. You know, we're sorry, Luann. This is Luann. Hey, I'm sick. I'm on medication, right? This is going online too. So initial statements. So this is for individuals whose office or position has been added to an amended conflict of interest code. So you can see we do have people falling into this category as well. And the effective date is the date the code was amended. So that's kind of help you with filling out your paperwork. And Jackie is fantastic with this. She can be of great help as well. And report investments, interest in real property, all these other things too. I won't go through all of it just because you have it in your packet, and if we have questions, we'll bring up those as well. So the annual statement is really the main one that the majority of people here in this group are going to be doing today. Right, okay, great. And this is for people who basically were covered last year, and now you're just reporting your updated information. And it's going to cover the year January 1st, 2010 through December 31st, so it's going to cover last year. And you can see the kind of things that you need to report here. And if your disclosure category changes during a reporting period, then you disclose under the old category until the date it changed, and then you begin disclosing under the new category. Okay? So you just fill out basically 2 different sets of paperwork. Leaving office statement, I don't know if we really have anyone here that falls under that one. No? Okay. Well, this one, again, very easy to figure this one out. If you're leaving a job or you're leaving office during the period covered, this is the one you fill out. And candidate statements, it's actually if you're running for something, you've got to disclose it. But again, I don't think that affects anyone here. Okay, amendments to statements. This one is a good one to cover because our status could change during the course of the year. Or if you find out there's something you left out, an omission or an error, you file the amendment, but you're only required to amend the schedule that's affected. You don't have to refill out all the paperwork, okay? And if something changes, you're supposed to file within 30 days of the change, okay? So those are the kind of the important points to take with that. Okay, schedules to file. In your handouts, we actually have these, and I have some slides where I'll be able to show them, but they're really hard to read, but Stacy was nice enough to scan these so we could get them in. And the phone number on this is really important. We're going to talk about examples and whatnot, but they provide a helpline for you to call. So if you have questions on something you can't figure it out, there is a helpline you can also call, and they can help guide you through your questions. So here's the actual packet, and you've got the big fat packet, and it says, I'll show you what it looks like. It says Form 700, and it looks like a short novel by Ernest Hemingway, right? A few pages here. The nice thing about this is, if you go through it, there's a lot of examples and information that can help you fill it out, okay? Now, the nice thing here as well is the Form 700 form you see here, the cover page, Jackie actually has provided us with some information that she will actually enter into the forms for people, and it's in your packet, okay? She will enter in the agency name, your position, the county type of statement. Jackie, I'm going to... Right. Yeah. So it's basically one of those PDF forms that you can fill in and print out, but you can't save information to. And we'll go through that as well. So these are the different pages, Schedule A1, and again, if you look at your categories that you fall into, you know, it'll help point you in the direction of the different schedules that you'll use. So I'm just going to kind of tab B, Schedule C for income loans and business positions, Schedule D, gifts, Schedule E, payments and all right, we're going to try something new and exciting here. We're going to actually click on this, and we're going to see if we can actually go to the FP, the Fair Political Practices Commission website here, so you can actually kind of see what forms and where you need to click. So this will be the cover page. You're going to go down here to where it says Form 700, and you can click there. And Form 700 right here, the one at the top, is the one that's that PDF form that you can fill out and print out. And like Jackie said, if you want, though, you still have the hard copies in your file, if you prefer to fill it out that way. That's fine. But we're just going to kind of show you this year only. So you can see it here. Let's go ahead and pick this up a little bit. All right. You can see the information here, and then you can scroll down, and there you go. So, and then based on the information on the sheet that Jackie very nicely provided, you can see what information you need to fill in on some of the different fields, okay? And there you go. You cannot save it. You'd fill it out and print it out. So, any questions about the gateway and how you get there and all that fun stuff? No? All right. Okay. All right. So the next question is, when and where do we file them? Elected officials, 30 days after assuming office. Appointed officials, 30 days after assuming your position. Positions that are newly added, same thing, 30 days after. Officials leaving office or employees that are leaving the position, 30 days after leaving office or position. And Jackie has asked if we can get these to her by Friday, March 18th at the latest. Is that right? Is that good? Okay. Penalties for filing late, right? Because there's always penalties in life. $10 a day up to $100. Fines can be waived or reduced under certain circumstances. Late filers have to be referred to the FPPC's Enforcement Division for investigation. And the fun part is they can get other people involved if they'd like the State Attorney General's office. I don't see that being an issue, but if they thought there was something serious, they would. And there could be a fine up to $5,000 per violation, okay? And the group does investigate suspected violations of the act, and I think a lot of times this will probably come about because someone will report on someone else, right? Saying like, hey, so-and-so was involved in this, that, or the other. And the $5,000 violation could result, and it's per violation. So you can see it could add up. I mean, it could be quite expensive. And then civil action can also be brought against someone who's in violation, okay? All right, now, just thought we'd try here a little bit. In your packet, the Form 700 packet, there's also a pamphlet that has a lot of good information, but we're actually going to go straight to this, and I thought we'd go through a couple of examples together. If you flip to page 3, okay. All right. Page 3 says instructions. Wait, hang on a second. Make sure I've got the right. No, I apologize. It actually says instructions 3 at the bottom. Okay? So you guys see that? Questions and answers at the top, and at the bottom left-hand corner it says instructions page 3. Okay? So here's some questions that they provide as being frequently asked. Okay? Let's jump down to question number 2. I hold 2 other positions in addition to my position with the county, or for us would be the college. Must I file 3 statements? Yes. You're required to file 3 statements. So you can see if you hold multiple positions, like if you're on a volunteer board or something within the jurisdiction, you could have to fill out multiple statements. I'm classified as a department head, but recently began acting as city manager. All you city managers out there. Yes, you file 1, and again, this kind of shows, it illustrates that, let's say you got a promotion or your position changed during the year, you would fill out paperwork for the first position up to the date that you began your duties for the new position, and then you'd file the statements for that new position beginning on that date, okay? That's what that's illustrating. Yes? Right. Right. Okay. At the top, the next one, investment disclosures. This one I think is kind of important to look at. Or interest in shares of stock in a company that doesn't have an office in your jurisdiction, must you still disclose your investment? And the answer to that is probably. Don't you love that? Probably you do. Here's the example they give. Okay, let's say I own a bunch of stock in General Motors, right? Okay, well, General Motors is headquartered out there in Michigan, right? But they sell cars within the jurisdiction. That my interest in owning stock there might make a decision. Let's say I'm involved with fleet decision, purchase vehicles for the district. That could be perceived as being a conflict of interest, so I might have to disclose that. Okay, so there's some of those. Okay, the next one, my spouse and I have a living trust. The trust holds rental property in the jurisdiction. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh. John, right? John, it's a great question. We have to designate. There's a difference here between actually owning stock as an investment. It's considered an investment, so it falls under the $2,000 rule. as opposed to actually owning the business. But no, but I'm glad, thank you for asking that question, because it's a good example of how you can get tripped up when you're filling out. Does everybody understand John's question? Right? Because I mean, technically if you own stock, you own ownership interest in the corporation, but it's held as an investment. You might hold it in a mutual fund or something of that nature. So it falls under the $2,000 rule. So John, thanks for clarification on that. Does anybody else see any questions here that kind of strike a nerve with them or think, and I really like this because this gives you a chance to look at something that may be of interest to you. Anything else? You guys all have that same look that I had when I was looking through this a couple weeks ago. Okay, why don't you go ahead and break out your reference pamphlet now. So that's the other one that looks like the Form 700 document, but it says reference pamphlet on it. And again, there's a lot of good information. And again, like Jackie said, I think for most of the people here, you're going to fill out one schedule. It's going to be really easy. It's going to be a piece of cake, so you don't have to really worry about it. But for a few of us, there might be a little bit more to fill out. Let me go ahead and flip to page 10. I think that's where the definitions begin. And you can see income reporting requirements here. Okay, and it talks about, you know, examples. Alice Ruiz is a partner in a business entity. She has a 25% interest. Okay, she has to disclose that, and the percentage would be like, let's say your business did $100,000 worth of business, right? You own a 25% interest. The income, whether or not it's divided up differently, you would recognize 25% of that $100,000 in income. Okay, so it's based on your ownership percentage on it for this case. All right. The other nice thing is on page 11, you can see things that you do not have to report, which is also very helpful. All right, and yes. Sure. Okay. Okay, great. Is that in the Form 700 or the pamphlet? Form 700, page 5. Right. I'm a Form 700 filer with full disclosure. Our agency holds a holiday raffle to raise funds for a local charity. Okay. I bought $10 worth of raffle tickets and won a gift basket valued at $120. The basket was donated by a citizen of our city or the college. At the same event, I bought raffle tickets for and won a quilt valued at $70. The quilt, and again, probably referencing like our fantastic facilities holiday party that we have every year, where we have vendors that make donations that are, okay? Are these reportable gifts? Because the gift basket was donated by an outside source, you've received reportable gift value at $110, right? So this is something that is not a reportable gift, or the quilt was not a reportable gift, but the other one is. Okay, so like at the facilities party, who are some of the vendors that donate for the? Let's see, I'm like looking at Nick. See, and you thought you were going to get out of this easy, Nick. Right. Okay. So you've got to look. So if it's something that's donated by an outside entity and it's considered a gift and it reaches the threshold, it's reportable. If it's something that, like, you know, one of our wonderful employees here makes, like a quilt or something, then it's not. Okay. Unless, of course, they have a quilt making business in the jurisdiction, then, you know, then it would be, because they are a business within it. Okay. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Okay. Any other? Yeah, I'm getting that deer in the headlights look. I hear you. I really do. Any other questions here? You want us to go ahead? Let's go ahead and just jump on. Okay. If you have questions, Jackie can help you, and I can also help you. And there's also that So that's really the end of the presentation. I think now, Jackie, would you like us to go through any of the forms or statements or any of the?
Reporting, and it is kind of
Absolutely, I'm here.
I mean, it is complicated. It's kind of confusing. Okay, so the purpose of the workshop is so that you can realize that there's a lot of materials to read. There's a lot of things to figure out. You're pointed in the direction of what category you file under. So that tells you how broad your reporting is. So the idea is that you are fully responsible for your own reporting, whether you eliminate something, you leave something out. I've been told it's far better to report more than you need to if you have a question, because you're not going to be dinged for that. But anything that you might leave out and somebody decides to investigate, and you all know that LA's mayor was being highly looked at, and this is the area, and it was the gifts. So those of you who receive gifts or anything that don't file, it's no big problem, because not all of us file. I do not file. I do not make those kind of decisions. I buy things, but I don't make the decision on entering contracts and so forth. So I'm exempt from that. So it's a little confusing to me sometimes too about all those investments and so forth. But if you take the time, the information's there. You just have to read it and make sure that you follow the directions. And if you don't, like you said, there is a number. You should call them. You don't call me and say, I'm not really understanding this, what I should report. You need to call them directly. They'll answer any question. Let me give you a background too. The Board of Trustees and the Superintendent President, they file with us, but their hard copy, their signed copy, goes directly to the LA County Board of Supervisors, and it's on file there. And we keep a file in our board minutes, official minutes for the auditors. All of you that file, your hard copy, your original signed statement stays with us. It does not go to the county. But our auditors do review those forms every year to make sure, according to the positions that we have adopted, those people are reporting in a timely fashion. And this brings up a good time to mention about the bond people. You have a lot of people that are on your list that are filing now. That this is new for you, but you have to notify, somebody has to be responsible to notify Betty's office that one of your employees has left. Because when they leave, if they're filing, they must file a leaving of office statement within 30 days. So if they're gone, how do we get that statement? If I'm not notified, which I won't have a way of knowing, then how do I get the statement? I won't be fined. That person will be fined, but how will I find them? So I have to make an attempt to send letters and fine and notify you that you'll be fined and so forth. And then once I have no success with that, then I would have to turn it over to the LA County, and that's where all those other things come in. Cindy? Well, if you're on the list to disclose and you leave the office under whatever circumstances, I believe you would need to file. It will be on them, but first it will be on me to try to collect it. And when me doesn't work in HR, those are the types of things that I won't know about until after the fact. And then this has happened once, and it was an interim employee, and I didn't even know the person was an interim employee in that position. So we didn't even have them file originally. Then come to find out we need them to file originally, so we did, and then all of a sudden, well, they're not interim anymore, and then they were gone. So. Yeah, that's all we're obligated to do. It's just the attempt has to be made, and then I have to show proof. I have to submit copies of the letters that I would send or mail to them, trying to retrieve their statement. So I'm off the hook at some certain point, but it is difficult, you know, for that we have to track all of this. And there is an exit form that HR has developed here that does have a place on it for conflict of interest, and a lot of these employees that leave, faculty, they come to me. It's just non-applicable because they don't file. So I'm getting those, but there might be other staff like the bond that I don't have control. Or they're resigning or retiring. Yeah, but that's kind of not.
Cindy, there actually is information here that talks about what the agency's responsibilities are. Generally speaking, I think you're on the right track. If we make an effort and document it, maybe send a certified letter, or whether it's going to be on them. Yeah, I think that we should make the effort, though, just to get us out of any potential situation. But we can also talk about it offline.
And then, secondly, I know it's probably, you know, everything's moving to electronic age here, but you can see the amount of paperwork, and this really isn't all of it. But there's a lot of paperwork involved to send out to everybody. So we're really encouraging the online. And, you know, you can test it. You don't have to, you know, it's not like you can't do it over and over and over and over. You can, because you can. But you could, you know, keep your hard copy and then go online and practice. And the highlighted sheet is the one that we want it to be consistent with that you use for Long Beach Community College District. We want you to use the address of the business, not your home address. You're not obligated to put your home address or any personal phone number or email. You can use the business. And then, of course, your position needs to match the position that's on the disclosure category list. The titles need to match. So today, you're director, comma, Form 700 workshop. That's just a sample. So you would be Vice President, Administrative Services would be Anne Marie Gable, and that title has to match what's on the reporting sheet. And then you are the County of Los Angeles. It would be most likely an annual statement with the exemption of, or exception of Greg or, you know, any other circumstance. Then you need to put in how many, the total number of pages that you will be submitting with this form, including the cover page. And I've highlighted that section, or it will be none. You'll check the none, and meaning you're only submitting the one top page. There's several people here that only submit the cover page because all the other attachments and schedules don't apply to them. So that's not uncommon. And then the mailing address, again, I said is the college. So I have till April 1st to get everybody's forms in, and they have to be stamped into my office here that I've received them. So they're entrusting our campus that I'm doing it on the timeline that they say. They have to be filed by April 1st, even though they go to their office and they can't prove it. I will follow that regulations. So
yes, I would assume that you'd be covered. I actually lifted the language directly from it, but yes, from reading everything and reading the case studies, yes, Cindy, I would say so. I think that's what you would want to do. And again, there's something else that we didn't really talk about, but there could be a case, and this is getting kind of, I don't want to go too deep into it, but even if it's not in your name, your partner, your spouse, your dependent child, or whomever, it could be in someone else's name, but if you kind of control it, you're supposed to disclose it. Yep, exactly. Good, great question, thank you.
So, you know, if you would like to, like I said, go ahead and, you know, even if you knew what your form was supposed to be filled out today, you could do that and leave it with me if you know that, like you're a single sheet and you want to do that with the blank copy that's in there. Otherwise, you can go back and use this hard copy in here and do it. But for next year, there'll be no more hard copies for you to write on. And when you go online, you don't submit it. It doesn't go anywhere. You don't submit it electronically, and you cannot save it. So if you fill it out and then you go, oh, I'm all done, and then you forgot, to print it, and you close it, it's gone. It doesn't go anywhere. So you have to reopen it, start over. So you would have to do all the attached schedules online also, electronically. All the forms are there in that in the area that Bob took you to. So I will be glad to help anybody with that or anything. But as far as questions about what you should report or not, I'm not going to lead anybody on that. That's just not my expertise. What is that? It's beyond my pay scope or something. But anyway, Bob, could probably help you even. But get used to using that number, and they're just trying to clean it up. This is also the first year that the county has asked us to tell them how many filers that we have besides the board and Eloy. So they're looking at now how many we should be requiring to file. They asked for a list, and so I don't know what they're tying in, but I'm responsible under Eloy, under the president, to make sure these are filed on time and that we have them, and that when we're audited, we're in compliance. So therefore, I'm asking all of you to, be, and usually it's good. I have to call a few of you to remind you, but I will send a memo out, next year also, even though you have to file or use the e-file. I will send out a memo to remind you. I'm not going to just leave you to remember. So, but with the timelines, okay?
Betty, you have a question?
I'll probably send the memo to you, because everybody will get a memo, and I'll put the link in it and maybe some short instructions, and then you can send it on. Because, pardon? Okay, but we're talking about just for filing purposes for next time. Yeah, and then, Betty's helping with that because there's a lot of bond employees that, is new to this, and it's difficult for me to, and that they work under admin services, so she's going to be taking care of the tracking of your reporting to make sure it's in. She doesn't have to answer any questions or have to help you fill out the form or anything. That's with me. But she's just going to help make sure that they get done and that they get back in time. So, anything else? There's a lot of people missing, right, Stacy? Okay. We have two different bond companies, right? We have yours and, okay. Does everybody is everybody that's on that list truly make those kind of decisions? Should everybody be on that list? Okay, and there's whoever had the two people that left, was it your company? Okay, so we're going to need assistance. We need a leaving of office form from them, but we'll have to have a contact, an address or something, or if they're even the kind of people that could come in and do, I don't know, I don't know what kind of terms they left on. And then there's a name change for your company, right? That's a very important information for us to know. And then if staff has changed, because I think your staff did change. So.
Well, and keep in mind too, if the person worked into January of this year, this is just for through December 2010. We're going to actually need a leaving office statement as well. We'll need two forms for them. We'll need the leaving office statement for 2011. Well, we're going to have to. Yeah,
and then there's a time that crosses over. I think if they left within so many days in the new time, that it will take care of that. So I have to go back and look at that. So I believe yours left before December 31st. So we're okay. That's the only statement I'll need. I'll need one from each of them, and same for you. Okay. Then your new people. Oh, they came back, the same people? Okay, well, I need a leaving and a assuming, and then an annual. So there's going to be like three different, Madhani knows about that because he's moved around a while, a lot, filling interim positions. So it's leaving, it's assuming, and then it's another one leaving, and so, and like it says, interim people, when I first came, they didn't have any interim staff filling these out, that we're filling those kind of positions, and yes, interim people are required to file, so.
And maybe in the interest, because I know that people may have questions and stuff, why don't we go ahead and call this, we'll go ahead and say the training's over. They could probably stop videoing it. And then if you have individual questions, we'll stick around and answer those at this time. Oh, I'm sorry. And if you could please fill out your evaluation form for us to let us know how exciting this was, that'd be great. Okay, thanks. And by the way, if you do need help, I'm more than happy to give you a hand if you have questions, even after today. Okay? All right, thank you.